Welcome back to the Confident, Magnetic, and Wealthy podcast. I'm your host, Heidi, and today's episode is really close to my heart because I've lived this experience personally. I've walked through it with my clients, and I've seen it show up in the people closest to me. We're talking about expanding your capacity to receive more money and what that really means, what it looks like and feels like in a practical sense, and how I personally raised mine. I'm going to share with you today a $30,000 moment that genuinely confused me and surprised me, and then I'm going to give you some practical steps for what to actually do to begin expanding your capacity. So stay with me. I know you have really big goals around your income. I also know that you're currently at a baseline that you've been at for a while, maybe even a few years, but something inside of you I know is pulling you toward a higher level. And it's pulling you because your goals and your vision have expanded to the degree that a higher income is actually needed to support all of it. And I want you to know before we go any further that you should have zero shame and zero guilt around wanting more money. Having more money allows us to live out so many of the visions and goals that we carry in our hearts. And today I want to talk to you about what it actually takes to get there. And before we get into it, if you're listening and you already know that you're ready to do the mindset work with real support, I do have limited spots open for one-on-one coaching. My signature framework is going to meet you exactly where you are so you can dissolve the inner resistance that's been keeping you from your next income level and start building the identity that makes that new number feel completely normal in your reality. The application to work with me is in the link in the description. So let me start with something that I think is going to frame the whole conversation for you. Everyone has a baseline for how much money they will allow themselves to have, and anything beyond that baseline becomes uncomfortable. But the tricky part is that most of us aren't even consciously aware that this is happening. Think about a thermostat for a moment and the purpose it has in your home. When the temperature drops too low, it kicks on and brings the room back to the set point. And when the room gets too warm, it corrects in the other direction. It's always working to bring things back to whatever it's been programmed to recognize as normal. Your nervous system has a metaphorical thermostat for money. It's been set to a specific temperature, whatever income baseline that you have lived with long enough to feel completely normal around. Maybe that's $8,000 per month, maybe it's $20,000 per month. Whatever that number is, your system is constantly working to bring you back to it. So if you've ever noticed that whenever you generate more income than your baseline, you seem to spend more and then wonder where it went. That's your inner thermostat doing its job. If you've ever had a really big month financially and then the following month is inexplicably lower, that's your thermostat pulling the temperature back down. And the reason this matters so much is because it's all happening below your conscious awareness. You're not choosing it. You're not doing it on purpose. It's your nervous system running an old program, trying to keep you inside the bounds of what it recognizes as safe. So before we talk about how to raise your income, we have to first talk about how to raise the set point. And that's really what expanding your capacity to receive is truly all about. So let's start with your big why, because the why is what makes the work feel like it's worth doing. So why do you want more money? And I mean, really, what is your big vision that requires you to have the higher level of income that you're picturing? For some of us, it's time freedom. It's wanting to experience the world in a way that takes real financial resources. For others, it could be giving back to family. If that's your calling to take care of someone, then that requires money as well. For me personally, a big part of my vision is travel. It's being in the position to give unforgettable experiences to my two nephews. The older nephew is turning 10 this year, and the younger one is just a baby. And I think about years from now, being able to take them both around the world, giving them a relationship with travel that feels completely normal to them, very different than how I grew up. And me deciding to cast a bigger vision to make that possible is part of what fuels me. So I'd love for you to get clear on what that dollar amount is for you and why. Because when you see the actual number that you want to aim for, and I mean the real number, not the quote realistic or the modest number, I mean the actual number that your vision requires. I'm certain you'll feel like you're at your edge as soon as you see that number. It'll likely feel uncomfortable, a little scary, maybe even a little embarrassing to admit that you want that number. And if you're listening to this podcast, I know that you're not just envisioning $5,000 or $10,000 more per year. You're envisioning a multiple six-figure income, maybe well beyond that, because you have really big, audacious goals. So when you look at that number, it's okay that it feels like a stretch. And once you can admit that there's some discomfort in looking at that number, maybe even a little bit of cringe that comes with really looking at it, then we can start to do the real work, because the discomfort is data. It's telling us exactly where your thermostat is currently set at and what needs to shift for you to hold more in your reality. I want to take you back to the moment that I first came face to face with my own thermostat. I was a few months into a new corporate role, the one that paid me my first six-figure salary. It was the first time in my life that I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. And for the first time after my bills were paid and I'd bought whatever it is that I wanted to buy, there was still money left over to put into savings. And one day I looked at my bank account and saw over $30,000 just sitting in my savings. All my debts were paid off. There was no big purchase ahead. I didn't have anything to splurge on. I didn't have a desire to go on a shopping spree, and I wasn't saving for any big trip. There was just a surplus of cash just sitting there in my savings account with nowhere to go. And what I felt in that moment was panic. It wasn't relief, not excitement. It was panic and anxiety. I felt like I was doing something wrong, like I was going to get in trouble for having this money, like someone was going to come and say, "Hey Heidi, that was a mistake. You're not supposed to have that much." Mind you, no one gave me that money as a lump sum. It was money I had earned from my job, an exchange of value of my time and my gifts and my talent to this company. It was completely mine, ethically mine, legally mine, and yet there I was sitting with a surplus of cash, $30,000, feeling panicked by it. I remember sitting with that feeling and thinking, how in the world is this possible? How can someone look at more money than they've ever had with no debt, nothing to spend it on, and feel like I was doing something wrong? That was well before I had done any mindset work, long before I understood subconscious programming or what the nervous system does in response to unfamiliarity, or what money mindset even was, long before I ever knew about the tools that I now use in my coaching career, in my work with my one-on-one clients. But I did have the good sense in that moment to recognize that something was off. Something was just completely off. And that recognition became the beginning of a very important journey for me. And what I eventually came to understand is that my nervous system had never learned how to feel safe inside that much abundance. It was unfamiliar territory for me to have $30,000 just sitting in savings. And the brain treats unfamiliar the same way it treats danger. It sounds an alarm in your body, even when the thing in front of you is something you consciously want. But if your system hasn't been calibrated to it, it will still flag it as a threat. Your thermostat kicks in at that point, trying to bring that temperature back down. Over time, after doing the real work and going deep on my money mindset, understanding my money beliefs, what I had observed growing up, how I watched my caregivers be around money, and understanding money mindset altogether, and of course using the tools that I now use with my clients and in my coaching career, it became completely normal for me to have multiple five figures in the bank and feel genuinely good about it. To open my account and feel excited, to feel like I was collecting something, building something. Eventually, having a lot of money felt fun and felt safe. And that's the destination that I want to help you reach as well. So I hope that you're hearing this and getting a sense for a future that eventually you will feel safe having a lot more money. And here's what I want you to understand. This isn't just my story. I've seen this play out in the people around me as well. A few years later, my husband and I had just hit a really significant financial milestone as a couple, and we were so excited about it that we casually shared it with a family member in conversation. They were happy for us, of course, they congratulated us, and they shared something of their own. They mentioned that they had also recently reached a milestone of having $10,000 sitting in their savings account, which was a big deal for them. I was genuinely happy for them, but what I found so curious, so genuinely fascinating, was what they had said next. They said, "I just feel this constant urge to spend it all. I don't have anything to spend it on, but I just feel like I need to get rid of it." And I found that so revealing because this person was describing their edge, even though they didn't realize what they were doing. They were describing exactly what it feels like when you're holding more than what your system knows how to be comfortable with. That urge to spend wasn't because they were irresponsible with money or bad with money. It was their inner thermostat kicking on, trying to bring things back to a normal temperature, back to a temperature that they recognized in their body. And that temperature for them was clearly way below $10,000. And this experience is so much more common than people actually talk about. You've probably heard the statistic about lottery winners, that a really high percentage return to roughly their original financial situation or worse within 2 or 3 years of having won the lottery. And people have a lot of opinions about that. But what I find most interesting is that many of those people, when they look back, they say things like, "I don't know where it went. It just feels like it slipped through my fingers." And I think that that's because they never had the chance to become a person of wealth on the inside. Not just manage wealth logistically, but actually feel safe and comfortable and normal holding that level of abundance. The inner thermostat was still set to their previous baseline. A truly wealthy person in their identity, they don't think, "How do I spend all of my money?" A truly wealthy person thinks, "How do I multiply it? How do I make this last? How do I make this work for the people who come after me?" That is a fundamentally different relationship with money. And that relationship with money, that gets worked on from the inside out. It's an identity that you become, that you assume through the repetitive work of working on your mindset. So let me ask you something. Where is your baseline right now? What is the amount of money that you've been comfortable managing for the last few years? Because whatever that number is, that is what your system has been calibrated to. Anything more than that, and you'll find a way, consciously or not, to drift back to your baseline number. And I want you to sit with this. What would it feel like to have multiple thousands of dollars in your bank account, just sitting there? Not going anywhere, not earmarked for anything, just yours. What comes up in your body when you imagine that? If your honest answer is discomfort or a kind of urgency to do something with it, or feeling like you'd be waiting for the other shoe to drop, that's the inner work that you have to focus on. That's where your expansion actually begins. Now, there's one more layer of resistance that I want to talk about because I rarely hear anybody talk about it. And I think it's one of the quieter but most powerful things keeping the ceiling in place for a lot of us first generation cycle breakers. And that specifically is the fear of out-earning the people that you love. There's really a tender part inside of us that worries, if I earn significantly more than my parents ever did, will they feel like they did something wrong? Will they feel like they weren't enough? Will I create distance between us? Will the people that I love look at me different? And so there's a part of us that quietly pumps the brakes, not consciously, but in that same like below the surface way that the thermostat works, because staying at a certain level feels like a way of protecting those relationships. I want to speak to that part of you with so much compassion because it genuinely comes from love. And I also want to ask, is staying small an act of love, or is it just familiar? Is it possible that expanding into your full potential and thriving and living out the vision in your heart could actually be the most generous thing that you can do for the people that you love? That question, I think, is truly worth sitting with, and it's also part of this deep inner work that we have to do to expand our capacity to receive and to hold more money in our reality. So let's talk about what expanding your capacity actually requires, because this isn't just about thinking differently. There are two distinct levels where this work happens, and you really need to do both if you want to expand your capacity. And that first level is the nervous system level. Your nervous system is constantly scanning for safety, and safety to your nervous system means familiar. So when you start to hold more than your baseline, even when you've been intentionally working towards that big goal, your body can go into a low-grade state of alarm. The breathing gets a little shallower. Your chest may start to tighten. The mind starts spinning stories about what could go wrong, who could take it, why it's a mistake for you to have this. And that's all your thermostat in activation mode. It's trying to correct the temperature. The practical tool here that I would love to offer you is your breath. And I don't mean just breathe. I mean actual breath work. If this is new to you, breath work is so incredibly powerful. And what I mean more practically is to sit with your bank account open and to let that be normal. For so many of us, I know I have experienced this personally, and so many of us on our money mindset journey go through this too, is that we avoid looking at our bank account. But in this practice, I would encourage you to get comfortable with opening your bank account and look forward to opening your bank account. And I invite you to look at your current balance, and right next to it, make a note of what your desired number is, your desired income. Write the number that represents where you want to go. And then as you see the juxtaposition of the two numbers, just notice your breath. If it starts to get quicker, if you feel the contraction in your chest, stay with it. Instead of closing the app and looking away, use a slow regulating breath, inhaling for a count of 4 and exhaling for a count of 6. The longer exhale is actually activating your vagus nerve, which is responsible for bringing your nervous system back into a state of calm. You're essentially teaching your body through a direct exposure experience to see this number as safe and to see this number as something normal by regulating your breath. And that inhale of 4 and exhale of 6 is going to start to rewire how your mind and body interprets the number that it is seeing on the screen. Now, it's really important for you to understand that this is not a one-time exercise. You do this the way that you would go to the gym, on repeat, over time, building the muscle. What once felt like a terrifying number will eventually start to feel like it's your new floor. Another powerful tool at the nervous system level is EFT tapping. Tapping through these specific beliefs, things like, I don't deserve this much money, or it feels wrong to have this much money, or I'm afraid of what people will think of me if I earn this much money. Speaking those fears out loud. What tapping does is help reduce the emotional charge attached to any of those beliefs and emotions and resistance that comes up when you're looking at that bigger number that you're looking at as your goal. And so through tapping, when the charge decreases, the belief starts to lose its grip. The unhelpful emotions start to release from your body. And when those unhelpful beliefs and emotions loosen, you create the space for new empowering beliefs to take their place. Now, shifting to the second level. The second level is the identity level, or your self-image. Your identity is really just a collection of beliefs that you've rehearsed for so long that they feel like facts about yourself. The woman who holds a 6 or 7 figure income has a fundamentally different set of rehearsed beliefs than the woman who's been at the same baseline for years. One isn't better or worse, they're just more or less practiced. And this is where hypnosis is such a powerful tool, because the subconscious mind, the part of our mind that's actually running most of the show for us, doesn't respond to logical argument. It responds to repetition, imagery, and emotion. Hypnosis gives us access to that deeper level and lets us start installing a new story, a story that says, this amount of money is normal for me. I am a person who feels safe with money. I enjoy managing large sums of money. I am always generating more and more money with ease. And the more that that story gets rehearsed at the subconscious level, the more your outer behavior and your results start to reflect it, because you are acting as this new version, as this empowered version of yourself. So if at this point of the episode you're thinking, okay, Heidi, I get it. I'm ready to expand my capacity for more money. Just give me the step by step. Let me give you 4 things that you can do right now to begin raising your thermostat. The first is to get specific on your number, the number that feels exciting and scary at the same time. I want you to write it down and say it out loud. Say, I'm currently earning $200,000 per year. And then sit with what comes up and write it down. Whatever feelings come up for you around that number are the exact things that you need to work on. The second step is to trace those feelings and emotions and beliefs back to their origin, to the root. What are they connected to? What did you grow up witnessing around money? What were the spoken and unspoken rules in your household when it came to money? What do you believe that someone would think of you if you had this income? And be really, really honest with yourself about this next one. What do you fear would be required of you if you actually had that much money? The third step is to identify what are the beliefs, behaviors, skills, and ways of being and thinking that a person who comfortably earns and manages, say $200,000, has, or insert your particular goal. Your job is to practice being this person, this up-leveled version of yourself daily. This is how you begin to step into the identity of someone who has a higher capacity for more money. And the fourth is to fully commit to a daily practice around your money mindset, breath work, tapping, hypnosis, and not as a one and done experiment. You'll do it today and nothing happened tomorrow, so you're going to stop. I need you to see this as a consistent practice. The way that you would show up to a gym on the daily to see real progress and real results is the same way that I want you to approach your money mindset. It is a daily practice and a daily habit, because in this process, you are literally building new neural pathways. You are creating new connections in your brain that create this new evolved identity of the type of person who feels comfortable having a lot more money in their reality. More money is soon going to be a normal thing for you. This is just who you will be. This is what life will feel like for you as a normal. The big takeaway that I want you to leave with today is that the version of you who is earning the income that you want, she isn't waiting for the perfect circumstances or a lucky break. She doesn't have something that you don't have right now. She hasn't been given some advantage that you are somehow being denied. The real difference is that her thermostat is set to something higher. Her system has been calibrated to hold more, and it feels normal for her to have a lot more money in her possession. And that calibration happens through the work that we've been talking about today. And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to have the money in order to start changing your mindset today. You begin with the inner environment. You build the inner world first, and then the outer results follow because they finally have somewhere to land. And when they land, it feels like that's just how it was always supposed to be for you. Raising your capacity to receive in the simplest form is doing the work that allows your body and your mind to feel safe with the things that you want. Because if what you want doesn't feel safe, if it feels like it's too much or wrong or like a mistake, you will let it go, consciously or not. you'll spend it down, you'll self-sabotage in ways that you won't even fully see, and then you'll look at your account and wonder, what the heck happened? Where did all my money go? Your path forward starts with getting honest about your number and your why, and it continues with meeting the discomfort that comes up with curiosity instead of judgment. And it deepens through the body level work like breath work and tapping that teaches your nervous system that more is safe. And it expands through the identity level work, the hypnosis, the subconscious reprogramming that installs a new story about who you are and what you're capable of holding. If you're listening to this podcast, I know that you have a really big vision. And if that vision requires a significantly higher income to actually live it, then you need to honor that and trust that the version of you who holds it is already within you. And now your job is to take the steps to evolve your money mindset and raise your thermostat. And if you're not quite ready for one-on-one support, but you want to begin shifting your relationship with money and wealth right now, that's why I created the Wealth Embodiment Bundle for exactly this moment. It includes hypnosis, meditations, and subliminal audios designed to help you start reprogramming your subconscious around money, worthiness, and receiving more. You can begin using it today, and the link for that is in the description. Please share this episode with another woman that you believe could benefit from a loving nudge to expand her capacity. I would be so grateful to you for helping me on my mission to help more women expand their capacity to receive and have more money, because I believe that good-hearted women do good-hearted things with more money. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next one.